So hello and welcome to the Student Outcomes podcast. So in this episode, we're exploring the educational experiences of those from the traveller community. So today I'm actually joined by Lourdes, who's a Women's Research and Development Officer at the Traveller Movement. So Lourdes, an Irish traveller herself, shares her own personal experiences and how she navigated the education system from primary school all the way up to university, something that's actually still really very rare within her community. She talks about challenging stereotypes continuously through that journey, pushing to stay in school, and also her experiences at university and those cultural expectations and how she's really balanced that. So Lourdes' journey is really an inspiring one. And now she's actually empowering traveller women, so in the work that she does at the Traveller Movement. So she's working to help them see the full range of opportunities that are also available to them, and to also break those societal taboos around just wanting to be a housewife. And letting them know that actually is okay if that's what they want to do. They don't have to go on to university if that's not something they want. So I think a brilliant episode to listen to, and one which I think you'll really enjoy. So an episode not to be missed, especially if you're working with the Gypsy Roma traveller community. So welcome to the Student Outcomes podcast. So for this episode, we are focusing on personal stories from the traveller community, and this is in specific relation to education. So really, really pleased to have here today Lourdes, who is actually from the Traveller Movement. So Lourdes, will you introduce yourself, please? Tell us a bit about yourself, your background.
Yeah, so my name's Lourdes and I am an Irish traveller. I come from mixed background, so my father is not a traveller man, but my mummy is a traveller woman. And I am the Women's Research and Development Officer at the Traveller Movement. Started here last May and have been here since, straight out of after I finished uni, came here. So yeah, that's just a little bit of background.
Lovely, thanks for that. We're here today to talk a bit about your educational experiences as somebody from, Irish traveller heritage. So it'd be great let's go all the way back. Let's start from your early, I know we had a bit of a chat about this before today as well. So let's chat about your early educational experiences. So I know you've kind of gone through everything, haven't you? Which is rare, obviously, people in your community to gone through all those steps. So, how was that for you? How was that experience?
Education, well, I enjoyed education. I was very, my family used to push me to go through education because I was the clever child. And I enjoyed it, and I liked going to school and I liked learning, and I was always a book in my hands. And even my nanny used to say to me, when I got older, she was like, you knew all your prayers at the age of 2. And I was like, oh, did I? And I was always the one that was reading in the corner, and I wouldn't really like going out mixing with people because I'd rather sit with my books. Bit of a nerd, but that's what I was I liked school. So when I found that my parents didn't want to take me out of it, they kind of was I'll push you to do your work. But school for me was actually quite interesting. I liked learning. I just liked the whole school atmosphere. Not many people will say that. Not even just travellers, other people as well. Not everyone likes school, but I was one of them people that enjoyed it. So
that's interesting. So do you think that's what made you kind of stay the course in a way? Because I know from our research that we've done, we've seen that a lot from the traveller community at a certain age, when they finish primary school, they get taken out of school. Uh-huh. So why do you think that you've been able to kind of stay in the, in the educational journey?
It might be, I think it's just because my family, they're very, they're not very strict on rules of what women and men should do. I got treated if I went to school, my brothers went to school because I went to school, but it wasn't if I had an older brother, it'd still be the same thing. I would still be allowed to go to school. But I think it's because I'm just not that strict. My mummy went to all of high school and primary school, so I think because she wanted me to do the same thing, and she didn't even do her GCSEs. She went all the way up until her GCSEs, and then just didn't do her GCSEs. And she always said she enjoyed high school herself, so she always wanted me to go through it. So I think that's why. And also, the teachers, I never got any sort of discrimination from teachers ever. So I don't think there was never problems with me in school. So I don't think mummy had a reason to pull me out. And I know a lot of travellers do get a lot of discrimination in school. So that's the reason why travel children tend to get pulled out, because like if they're getting bullied in school or they're getting picked on in school, or the teachers are saying to them like, you're just going to end up working with your daddy, like they're not, why would they want to stay in school, and why would the mothers put them in school if their children are just going to be like discriminated against the whole time? But maybe because I didn't get any of that in school, maybe that's why I was allowed to stay. So I think if I was being bullied in school, and I think mommy would then say like, all right, let's pull you out, let's do some homeschooling. But yeah, so maybe that's what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I see. So your experience might have been unique in that way, in the sense that you didn't get that discrimination, because that is really very common, unfortunately. And then were you the only traveller in your school, or were there others, or was it?
Well, the only others were my family. Like I had my cousin, we were the same age, so we were in the same classes, and like that was another requirement as well from mummy, is that she would say to the school they have to be in the same classes as each other.
I see.
So mummy was like, it's like I'm letting her go to school, so if she's going to go to school, I'm going to need one of her family members in the class with her, and obviously she was the same age as me, we're on the same level at school, so we're always in the same classes. Primary school, I think my cousin joined in like year 3, so like from nursery to year 3 I was kind of on my own, which was fine, but I found myself more blending in a little bit. I didn't really announce that I was a traveller, so again that might have helped with not me getting any discrimination, because I kind of blended in with everyone else, so maybe that's why as well. But so I was in classes with my cousin, and I had my cousin there and my older cousin, and apart from that we were probably the only travellers in that school.
I see. So do you not think anybody knew that you were travellers?
They did.
Then?
I know they did in high school, because we kind of told, if people asked, we'd kind of tell them. But in primary school, no one had an idea. But we did say it. But no, I think back in, I was in in primary school, so 2000, when I left primary school, it was 2014. So back then, I don't think many people knew what travellers were. Especially like younger children, like ages 11 downwards. I don't think, even I didn't distinguish the differences between gypsy and traveller. I didn't even know that myself. So if someone was to ask me, I wouldn't even be able to tell them. But I don't think anyone, even like I got that at university as well. When I was at university, like me telling people I was a traveller, they were like, "What is that?" And I was like,
"Oh, that's interesting."
I was like, "Gypsy," and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're a gypsy." I said, "Well, there are two different things, but like to be able to distinguish myself, I have to say I'm a gypsy, even though I'm not a gypsy." But I feel like that's the only word people get. Don't know why.
Oh, that's interesting. So you felt that there was a knowledge gap between the group and the fact that there are distinct groups within.
So I think within your ethnicity. Maybe why I never got pulled up on anything. Maybe that's why they didn't. I don't think people even knew I was a traveller. Maybe because I look more like my father's side of the family, who are not travellers. Maybe that's why people don't really distinguish me as a traveller.
Okay. And then, so moving then into, you said that primary school, you enjoyed that. And then moving on to high school, how was that?
Yeah, that was, I guess it was very different, because, I don't know, maybe because it was like loads more people, and there's loads more, like everyone's older. And everyone kind of, when you do say traveller, then everyone's like, oh, traveller. But then they'd also say, oh, you're a pikey. And I'm like, all right, you don't have to say that word. But I got a lot of people in high school saying to me, like, it wouldn't, at the time, I thought it was like a ha-ha joke kind of thing. Like, oh, you're having a joke with me. But they'd always be like, oh, where's your caravan? Or where's this? Or where's that? Or, oh, don't argue with her because she'll get her dad to come beat you up. Like, all that kind of stuff. So that was a bit harder. But it wasn't from the teachers. It was from the other students. But again, I had my older cousin there. And I had my younger brother, who was also, he's 2 years younger. So again, I was kind of like, I didn't really care about what they were saying. And I had my cousin in my class always. So if I did get into an argument or anything, like I had her there, I wasn't by myself, I wasn't singled out. And usually when you are the only traveller in the school, you probably would get singled out. But because I had my family around me, I was all right.
Okay. So it sounds like that was a really important aspect to you being able to feel like you could stay in education and not feel isolated. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I suppose it sounds like you had to deal with quite a few stereotypes from the students themselves. What did you do in those situations?
Well, like I said, I thought they were like joking. So when they used to say it, like if I was in an argument with someone and they would say pikey, then obviously then I would react to them and be like, "Don't you know that's a slur? You can't say that." Da, da, da. And then, but I think half of them didn't even realize it was a slur, because like when I actually sat down and told them it was, then they were like, "Oh, sorry, didn't mean that." And like even now you get it sometimes that people saying pikey, but they don't realize it is a slur. Like you're not supposed to say that to a traveller. But when they used to say that, I used to think it's like a joke. So I used to be like, but sometimes I'd play along with it, just maybe because it was just kind of embarrassment. Like I don't want everyone to think I'm bothered by them calling me a pikey. So I used to be like, oh yeah, haha, whatever. But then now thinking back on it myself, I was like, I should have pulled a lot more people up on it, but I didn't. I don't know whether it's the fear of like, then they'd know I was a traveller, know I'm affected by that, and then carry on saying it. And then, do you know what I mean? So I kind of just act like I wasn't bothered, so then they would stop saying it. And it did work. They eventually did stop saying it to me. But,
so you just thought, I'll just ignore that. I won't draw attention to it, and hopefully it'll just... And did you get much support from teachers?
Well, I was really close with one teacher in general. Like, she was my head of year. I was telling you about her earlier. But she was really nice. And I'd always go to her, like, if I felt upset or if anything happened or if I wanted to, like, if I was in class and I was kind of like, oh, well, they're not really... Teachers sat me at the back of the class or something like, you know, like I'd go to her and I'd kind of sit in her office for a little bit. She was a really, really nice teacher. I'd go for her for anything. So I did have like one support teacher. The rest were lovely as well, but she was my main source of support. So if I did have any problems, I would go to her and she would sort them out for me. So yeah.
Oh, great. So it sounds like you had a good support network of having your cousin there and then also having a teacher that you could go to as well.
Yeah.
So moving on to, so was it sixth form or college that you went to next?
Yeah, I went to sixth form.
Sixth form. So how was that transition?
Sixth form, I think it was a harder transition actually because my cousin didn't come with me. My cousin, she stayed at my original high school, in their sixth form, and I went to a Catholic. I didn't go to a Catholic high school, but I went to a Catholic sixth form, and you had to have like certain grades to get in, and I was like, I only applied for it because I was like, just in case I do get good grades, like then I'll go there. And then I was gonna stay in my normal high school because my cousin was staying there, so I was like, oh, I've got comfort here, all my friends are here, my cousin's here, like I might as well just stay in this school. But then I thought I might as well try and better myself, and kind of, my cousin actually did get into that school as well, but she didn't want to move because it was too far from our house. So I was like, okay, I either stay here with my cousin or I just kind of branch out a little bit and go by myself. So then I decided to go by myself. So then I had to like make a whole new bunch of friends and all that, and then have them awkward conversations again, like I'm a traveller. And what's a traveller? All this. Oh, what, pikey? No, not pikey, it's a traveller. Do you know, them kind of awkward conversations. But I think that kind of prepped me for university as well when I got more questions. So I was like, now I don't have my cousin there with me. It kind of prepped me for uni when I actually went to live there by myself. Kind of prepped me a little bit more.
So how did you find that experience at sixth form then? How was that?
Sixth form was fine because, to be fair, I was only in there like, must have been like 8 or 9 months because of COVID. Because I went in for a couple of months and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And everything was online. And then I had like another 3 months when we came out of COVID and then moved straight to university. But I kind of got along well with everyone from my school. No, there wasn't that many people would say it when they first meet me, like, oh, da, da, and then they get into the whole story, like, oh, I'm a traveller, oh, pikey. I'm like, no, that was like, there was never like, no one ever called me pikey. The teachers weren't that supportive in general in that school. I felt like I was teaching myself most of it, but I don't know whether, yeah, but I think they kind of leave you off and let you do your own thing. But I never got any sort of backlash from teachers or any sort of discrimination from teachers. I was kind of, and maybe because I kept myself to myself, I was kind of like, I didn't really cause trouble. I didn't have big, massive groups of friends either. I was kind of just doing my work. I was ready to just go. I went to school, went home, cooked and cleaned. That was I'd want to get out of school to go home and do my work because the teachers weren't really teaching me anything. So I was kind of like, I'll just get the day over and done with, go home. And then that was kind of that's what I wanted to do. So I didn't really mix with big groups of people anyway. So I think.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So did you make many? Did you feel integrated then at all?
Yeah.
Or?
I felt like, do you know what it was? I think it's because I was from a different high school, and there was a lot of people that went to that Catholic high school, so they were all there. But I kind of knew all of them anyway because I did my confirmation with a lot of them people, in the Catholic church that like is my local church as well. So I kind of knew some of the people, so it was kind of easy going into the big groups. But then towards the end, after COVID, I was kind of like, I'm done with education. I don't want to go to university. I was like, I don't want to apply. I actually was very close to not applying to university. And I think one of my teachers were like, no, you have to apply. Like, you are smart. You need to go and do it. Like, even if you decide in September you don't want to go, at least apply. Because I was like, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to go to university. I'm sick of school. I think it was all the online school that just irritated me. I was like, no, don't want to do it anymore and all this stuff. So I was actually so close to not going to university. But yeah, I think it's just because of COVID, really. I think that kind of stopped you having big friend groups as well. Because again, when you went back to school, you weren't allowed to be in like bigger groups than 3. So a lot of the friends everyone kind of went their own ways.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you also mentioned some responsibilities at home, and I know for girls in the traveller community, they do have those responsibilities at home, and it's how did you balance that?
It was kind of like Mommy would always say to me, like, you have your break from the house when you go to school, and then when you come home, you can do your housework, and then you can sit down and do your schoolwork. Mommy always left me, if I did have like important essays or homework, like Mommy would always say, okay, do your essays, do your homework, and then you can clean afterwards. Like, it was never like, Mommy would never be like, no, you can't do your schoolwork, you have to clean and cook. Like, Mommy was very considerate in that way if I had something important to do. And sometimes I'd often be like, oh, I'll leave it till last minute, like I'll just do it like the day before. And Mommy's like, no, sit down, do your work, get it over and done with, because I need your help. So Mommy was very considerate in that way. Like, if things needed to be done, I would kind of use my initiative. Like, Mommy would never have to actually ask me to get up and clean. If I knew something needs to be done, I'd get up, do my work, go and clean, or do the other way around, like clean and then do my work.
Ah, I see. So it's very flexible. And then how did that change when you went to university? What happened there?
Well, when I went to university, I begged Mommy and Daddy to go to university, and they were like, no, I didn't want to go. And then Daddy told me, Daddy was like, you need to go, might as well finish it off, whatever. He said, I'll pay for the whole thing. And I was like, no, the student loan, you don't have to pay for the whole thing. But he was very like, you need to go and do what you want to do. So at that stage, obviously, I wanted to be a lawyer. So I was like, I'm going to do law and criminology because I don't want to do the whole law. And I know you can get the same degree, whether you do law or law and criminology, you still get the same degree. So I was like, I'll do it a little bit easier for myself. And I begged Mommy and Daddy to let me stay there. And originally they were like, no, you're not staying there. Because traveller girls don't stay out until they're married, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, because I wanted to go up the country to a different university. And I wanted to stay there for 3 years. And Mommy was like, you are not going up the country and staying away from home for 3 years. So then we settled on staying in London at a university that was like an hour away from my house. And the original idea was me stay there for a year. So with that came loads of different like rules. So obviously all girls dormitory, like couldn't have any boys in there, which I did have an all girls one. In fact, the floor above me and the floor below me was also girls. Like, Mommy had to make sure it was just all girls. And it was obviously I used to come home on the weekends, but that wasn't like she wasn't like that, you need to do that. She was kind of like, just come home whenever. And apart from, I found myself coming home more time than I was at uni. I think because I missed the house a little bit, but it was weird living away from home because I'm from I have 4 younger brothers. So going from a house full of boys to loads of girls my age. I've never had sisters. You know, like don't have sisters, so I never knew how to get on with sisters. So sharing a kitchen with loads of girls who were really clean as well was really weird because they were all cleaning up after themselves. And I'm so used to running around like picking up cups after the boys and like going. It was kind of like a chill. Like I was kind of like, oh, I like this. I like living away from a little bit. But I was missing the boys as well because I was like, no, I haven't. I found myself really bored half the time. So I was going home a lot, and then I met like a good few friends over there, And again, the whole conversation is like, oh, you're a traveller. In fact, one person even said to me, oh, you're a nice traveller. And I was like, all right, thanks. I was like, what are you supposed to mean by that? And he was like, oh, I just met travellers before and they're like really rowdy. And I was like, yeah. So are you surprised that I'm a traveller? He's like, you don't look like a traveller. And I was like, okay, whatever. But again, you have to just kind of pass off them comments. You can't really, people are not informed too much. But yeah, so it was really weird adapting to university life, especially because again, my cousin was supposed to come and then she didn't end up coming.
I see.
So that was another reason why mum was letting me go, is because she was in the same dorm as me, so we were right next door to each other. But then last minute, she decided she didn't want to go university. So then I kind of told mummy, I was like, well, it's too late. I'm already signed.
Yeah, I'm going.
And I'm going.
Why didn't your cousin decide to go to university?
She moved away from London, so she actually moved up the country a little bit. So the original plan was take a gap year, and then after that, then go to university. But then after the gap year, she decided she kind of like fell out of love with education a little bit. She was kind of like me. She liked school. She'd done good in school, and then kind of after a year, she kind of said like, "Oh, what's the point of me going back now? Like I've had the year," which is the reason why I didn't want to take a gap year, because I was like, I know I won't go back. So that's the reason why she didn't go. And then now she's married. But yeah, so she took that path, the traveller path, but she still has an education, so it's good. She always has it to fall back on if she ever doesn't want to work again. So yeah.
Okay, brilliant. If you're finding this conversation valuable and want more insights just like this, be sure to subscribe to our Educator newsletter. And it's where we share practical tools, interviews with sector leaders, and deep dives into the pressing issues facing and shaping education today. So it's completely free and it's designed for educators like you who want to make that real impact. You can find the link to sign up in the show notes or head over to cosmosltd.uk. And that's Cosmos, COSMOS Ltd.uk. And if you head over there, you can fill in the pop-up box for the newsletter. Don't miss out. Well, thanks for that. It's been really interesting to hear kind of your transition through the different stages and also transition to university as well. So did you say that you stayed there for a year and then did you go back home? Is that what happened?
Yeah, so after a year, mummy and daddy, that was the agreement. I stayed there for a year and then I come home. So after the year, I was kind of glad to go home, because living with a bunch of girls for a whole year is a lot more arguments than you think.
Okay.
Like, not between me and that, like, just girls bitching about things. But yeah, so I went home after that year and lived at home. But then I got my license, so I was able to just drive to uni, back and forth from uni. So yeah.
Do you feel like you integrated into university life? Do you feel...
Yeah, I went to all the freshers events, and I went to all, like, we had, like, I think one of them was, like, a day out to Thorpe Park, and they booked out the whole of Thorpe Park, which was good. And I did go to all the parties and stuff like that, but just stayed till a certain time and then went home. Like, I was kind of like, I didn't really like the party lifestyle. Experienced university life to the fullest. Like, I did have the not going to lessons, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Don't tell my lecturers, but yeah, so I did integrate quite well. Like, I did have a load of friends at uni. I had more friends probably at uni than I did at sixth form. But I think it's because when you're living with people, you kind of mix with their friends and their friends, and then when people bring people over, then you mix with them, and it's kind of like all that. So I did integrate into the university lifestyle a lot better than I did sixth form, I would say.
Oh, that's interesting. Why do you think that was then?
I think maybe because I had more of a preparation, because my cousin didn't come with me to sixth form either, so I think I was used to making friends. And then when I went to university, I was like, well, I'm kind of here by myself again, and I kind of got over the fear of like making new friends and like having to have the more conversations like I'm a traveller, and then all these like little comments come back. And I got a lot more used to like addressing the comments like, oh, you're a traveller, oh, why are you surprised you're at uni, oh, you should be home and cooking and cleaning. And I got more, I think I was more informed, like I knew how to answer the questions, so it wasn't awkward. It was more like, yeah, usually girls cook and clean, but like, I'm not your typical traveller. Like, I did go to school, but doesn't mean I don't have to cook and clean. Like, I still have to do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's maybe because I was by myself in sixth form that I kind of was able to do it in university a lot easier.
So, yeah, I see. And then I suppose it sounds like you had a positive experience at university.
Yeah.
So did you want to kind of seek out other travellers at university, or did you feel like you were happy with the group that you had? Or
Well, there was no, from what I know anyway, there was no travellers in my university.
Okay.
I didn't see any, and the thing is with travellers, you can kind of tell when there's another traveller. I don't know what it is. Like, I can just, if someone walks past me, I can tell you if they're a traveller or not. I can tell you if they're half a traveller. I can tell you if they're quarter traveller. It's just something that you can just tell.
Sense.
Yeah, it's like a sixth sense. I don't know what it is, but you can just tell. Every traveller will tell you the same. But when I went to university, like, I never ever seen another traveller, and as far as I was concerned, I think I was the only traveller there. Unless there was someone that was really well at blending in. I don't know. But I was the only traveller in that school, in that university, as far as I'm concerned.
And how did that make you feel then? It doesn't sound like it impacted your experience, but how did that make you feel?
Do you know what? I think it was because it was like, when I'm growing up, Mommy kind of said to me, like, because she didn't want me going to high school, so because it was like normal for traveller girls to stay at home. And she originally didn't want me going to high school, and I had to beg and plead because she was going to homeschool me, because she was like, I don't want to go into a mixed school and whatever, so she wanted to homeschool me. But I think it's because Mommy always says to me, like, yeah, traveller girls are not supposed to go to school, but I'm letting you go to school, and you're clever, and you're going to have a good education, and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's because all my other cousins weren't going to school either, so it was kind of normal to me that I would, like, it wasn't out of the ordinary that I wouldn't see, that I wouldn't see a traveller in university.
I see.
Same with sixth form. It wasn't abnormal to me that I didn't see a traveller. I was kind of expected, and I kind of liked being the unique one.
Yeah, so you used to be the only one from your background.
Yeah, I kind of liked being like the one in the school, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're a traveller." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the only one here as well." Like, they used to just be like, "Oh, I've never seen a traveller in school," and I'm like, "Well, I'm one of them." But so I didn't ever think there was many travellers in school, and then obviously as I grew up and met more people, then I realised there was a lot of travellers, but it's only like 2 or 3 in each school. Like, they never really just, like, when Mommy went to school, she said it was packed with travellers.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, she said her school was packed with travellers. She went to a Catholic girls' school, and she said it was packed with traveller girls. And then when I went, I never used to see another traveller unless they were my family. That's the only other traveller I would see. And then when I actually got a bit older, when I was in sixth form, actually, my husband now, but I found out he went to school, and he was a traveller in a different school. And I was like, when I met him, I had to question him. I was like, "Are you a traveller?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Are you sure?" And he was like, "Yeah." Like, "Why are you at school?" And then he said to me, he was like, "You a traveller?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Why are you at school?"
Why are you at school?
And he was like, "You're a girl, you definitely shouldn't be at school." And I was like, "You're a boy, you should be out working with your daddy." Like, even I had like, it was weird to see that he was in school. But yeah, so that was weird as well. So as I got older, I started seeing more travellers in school. And now it's kind of like in my younger brother's school, it's like 4 or 5 travellers there. And I'm like, I never even knew any of the travellers apart from family there. So I think nowadays it's getting a bit more known a little bit, whereas I kind of had to either hide from the travellers that I was in school, and then hide from the settled people in the school that I was a traveller. Like, it wasn't, I had to like balance the two lifestyles.
So it's a bit cloak and dagger in a way.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's interesting for people that maybe don't know as much about the traveller community and I suppose their view on what the girls' responsibilities are. Could you explain a bit more about that? Because you were saying obviously about you're not really meant to be in school.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, so traveller girls really, from a young age, are kind of brought up to cook and clean and like look after like typical traditional values, which I respect completely. Like, I do, like, my mother was like that as well. But they kind of just, that's the lifestyle they like. It's not like, if a traveller girl really went to her mommy and daddy and said, like, I really want to go to school, then I don't think their mommy and daddy would say to them no. It's just not a lot of what traveller girls and traveller boys really want to do. Like, they're more like, traveller boys are more like, some of them are really, really smart, but some of them don't like education. Like, my brothers do not like education at all. Like, they've all come out and been homeschooled because they hate it. But it's not like if they went to mommy and daddy and said to mommy and daddy, I want to go to school, like, mommy and daddy wouldn't be like, you're not going to school. But I think many travellers, maybe because it's like kind of like maybe because it's just the traditional values built up that they don't find interest in school.
Yeah, I see.
Because a lot of my cousins, like, they're really smart, but they just they had the opportunity to go to high school and they never did want to. They just didn't like it.
Mm.
They liked to be at home. They liked to cook and clean. They wanted to be a housewife when they grew up. They wanted to do that. Whereas me, I grew up kind of not wanting to be a housewife. I was kind of like, no, I'm not cooking and cleaning for no man. And now here I am, a wife cooking and cleaning for a man. But I've still got my career as well. So I think traveller girls, again, and traveller men, they need to realise you can have both, best of both work, and you can have a wife and a husband. And I'm young as well, so I'm 21, and typical, like, travellers get married young. I got married young and I still have an education. Like, it doesn't really affect, I don't think travellers think it, like, affects one or the other. It doesn't.
I see.
It doesn't affect either. You can still get married young and you can still have a job and you can still have an education. So.
So I suppose there's an education piece on that side as well, in terms of the community, understanding that you don't have to have one or the other. You can. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, thank you so much for talking about your educational journey. That has been really, really interesting. So moving on to the work that you do at the Traveller Movement. So do you tell me a bit more about that? Your role actually sounds really, really intriguing. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about the work that you do there.
So I started at the Traveller Movement as an intern. I just came out of uni, and my mother used to work here when she was my age, before she got married, and then before she had children as well. So she used to work here, so I always knew about the Traveller Movement growing up. So then when I finished university, I was kind of like, okay, before I go into law, because I do want to eventually be a lawyer, I was like, before I go into law, let me do like some work with the Traveller Movement, because I always wanted to do law working with travellers. Like, that's what I was like growing up. Like, I always seen discrimination and stuff like that, and I was like, I'm sick of it. Like, I don't really like it. And even though some of the discrimination wasn't coming towards me, it was coming towards my family and my uncles and my aunts and my grandfather. Like, it was all. So I was like, if I push to be a lawyer, then I'd be able to help them. So I decided, before I do that, I want to come and do some advocacy work for travellers to kind of get into the work a little bit, and then take a step further and do the actual law part. So I started working here just as like a bit of experience, and then I moved up to the Women's Research Development Officer in September. So I do a lot of work with women, and like I do a lot on like domestic violence and stuff like that, all the casework through that, not casework, all the work that comes through that, like any campaigns we have and stuff like that. And I do all the events for the women. So like I kind of like to empower women basically, and empower traveller women and traveller girls. And we do like skills workshops. Like we've done makeup and makeup. We've done makeup and business. So we've done makeup in the morning, in the afternoon we do like a educational opportunity. So like a business workshop, or we were doing, I think we've only done business so far, but it's like basically how to start your own business, or how to start your own Instagram page, stuff like that. So basically to empower traveller women in other ways other than education.
I see.
It was like some traveller girls might like hair and makeup, so we're putting a hair and makeup class on, so then they can do the hair and makeup, and then also learn how to set up an Instagram page to make that hair and makeup like, and do it like that. And then we done a flower arranging one as well, which had a good turnout as well. So people, again, a lot of traveller women and a lot of women on the internet are selling flowers. Like, they make flowers and they sell them. So we thought, if we teach more girls how to do that, that's another business opportunity for young girls to do, rather than sit down with a pen and book. And
brilliant.
Yeah, so it's kind of like just basically upskilling the women and girls and empowering them, and kind of, like I said, not giving them one or the other path. Like, you can do both.
Yeah, as I say, it comes back to the point that we were just talking about, with you saying that actually there's that education piece within the community about, actually, for women, it don't have to just be at home and cook and support the family. They can not do that, but also have these other opportunities.
And it's not even like, when I say education, I don't mean sit down. Like, you don't have to go to university and get a degree, but it's other skills that women can do while being at home. You don't have to, like, you could do flower arranging, you could do makeup and hair, you could do cake decorating. I've seen a lot of travel girls now doing cake decorating from their trailers, from their homes, and it's just like kind of giving women a bit more financial empowerment and a bit more independence. And and kind of just letting them, like, you don't have to go down one path or the other, and you don't have to go get a degree. No one's saying that. If you're not interested in education, no one's forcing you to do that. But at least have something that you're interested in. So that's why we do all different events every time we do one. It's kind of like, if you don't like flower arrangement, oh, we have a makeup and hair one coming up. If you don't like makeup and hair, oh, we have a cake decorating one coming up. And then we also do, obviously, like domestic abuse advocacy training, and we do loads of different training stuff. Like, we've done social media training before, and we've done peer research training. So we do a lot of different to match different women and what their interests are. So it's kind of just, that's all my work, basically, just empowering women and kind of letting them pick the path they want to go down.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing about that, sharing about the work that you're doing there. It sounds, it just sounds really, really uplifting, empowering, like you say, and creating more opportunities for women from the traveller community. And I suppose I was doing a little bit of digging online, and I saw that your grandfather, was it Patrick O'Leary, won a historic case in 2000 that established Irish travellers as an ethnic minority in law. How amazing to have somebody like that in your your family history. So I suppose in that sense, how has his legacy maybe influenced your path, your aspiration?
Yeah, well, my granddad, I'm really, really close with him, and he always he's like my biggest supporter in life. He goes around with my degree certificate. He has a picture of it on his phone, and he goes around, anyone he meets, he shows them. And then if he meets other traveller men, he's like, oh, look, my granddaughter went to university, she got a first class degree in law and blah blah blah. And then they don't believe him. They're like, oh no. And he actually has that on his phone to prove to people. He takes out, he's like, no, I'm not lying, look, I'm being serious. And they're like, yeah, but he just, like, even if they believe him, he's like, no, look, I'm not lying, I don't think I'm lying. So he's like my biggest supporter, and he's he calls me Bar, is for barrister, but he said he's going to add the rest of it when I become a barrister. So he goes around calling me Bar, and he's just, because I learned about what he done, like his case, when I was really young. So I always grew up thinking, like, Grandad's like a celebrity, like everyone loves Grandad. Grandad did this for travellers, and like he kind of, like, growing up, then I was like, I want to do something for travellers as well, the same way Grandad did. I was like, I want to go and help travellers. I want to go advocate for them. And what Grandad did was, like, really important for travellers and got them ethnic minority status in the UK. So all that was all because he got put out of a pub for discrimination, and then it led from that. Okay. So I was like, if Grandad, who had no education whatsoever, had done that, like anyone could do it. Grandad, who never had any sort of education, and I was like, I want to be like him. And then he kind of pushed me the whole way through university and sixth form, and he was always, like, so proud of me and stuff like that. So I think and obviously he pushed mummy growing up as well, like doing all the education as well. And even now, to all my cousins, he always says, like, you need to get an education. Education is important. I wish I had an education. I would love to have an education. He loved school, but obviously because he was a traveller, he was treated very poorly in school. So he never ever stayed in school, but he always says, like, I would have loved to go through all of school. And he even says, like, we say to him sometimes, you should be a university lecturer because this man is so wise and knows everything. But yeah, he really, growing up hearing about how he did all that, and like all the bits of work Grandad's family have done in general, even his sister done amazing work over in Ireland for travellers. So it's like, I come from a whole line of advocacy workers, so I was like, if I don't do it, then I'm going to be shaming the whole family. But no, honestly, like, he's a very, very good man, and he's very inspirational, and he kind of, like, pushed me to do my work. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Thanks for sharing that. What a really great role model to have, to look up to. So, I think we're coming to the end now, but thank you so much for sharing your personal journey, your stories. I suppose as a takeaway, what advice would you give to young traveller women considering, their next steps? What feeling hesitant, what would you say to them?
I would say, if you like school, go to school. If you don't like school, like, don't force yourself to like it, and don't think anyone's trying to force a lifestyle on you. Like, if you want to be a housewife, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. If you want to go down the traditional route, do. But I think traveller girls need to know that there isn't just one set path. You can go down a different path, and you can go down two paths if you really want. And I think maybe just kind of, if you want to do something, just follow it through, because it actually works out in the end, and you won't be isolated from the community, I promise. So, yeah.
Very wise words indeed. Thank you so much, Lourdes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today and sharing your experiences and the brilliant work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.